What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. Today, I'm doing a podcast audit with my pod pal, Dr. Jillian Lockich of the Growing Older, Living Younger podcast. Dr. Jillian, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here with you.
All right. I'm excited as well. Let's hit the ground running and get some progress going here. So if we were to meet up 6 months from now and everything has gone stupendously between now and then, and things are really going well with your show and your brand, could you describe what that would potentially look like so we kind of set a goal for our discussion today?
Yeah, I think my goal is I would like to 10x my downloads and increase the interaction and the follow-up that my listeners have, and the communication that they want to have with me after hearing a particular episode.
All right, fantastic. And what do you feel like is the number one obstacle that's keeping you from getting there right now?
I think probably just because people don't know about the podcast. And one of the ways in which I've been trying to sort of increase it is I have some absolutely amazing expert guests, and I expect them to sort of share their episodes and attract sort of their audience as well. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So with your audience, who's the ideal listener for your show? How would you describe them?
Men and women who are really hoping to age well, to stay mentally and physically fit and active as they grow older and become super agers, which means that they basically live in a healthy state until the end.
Okay. So I think with a goal of 10xing downloads and increasing audience engagement, there are a few steps that we could take that I think would be very, very effective. One thing is looking at our search engine optimization. There's some great keywords that you just mentioned that I think we could infuse into your podcast setup and in your podcasting brand that could really help pull the right people in. So Growing Older, Living Younger. Is that the full title listed on like your feed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is infuse some keywords that people could be searching on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Because right now, I would say that there aren't any keywords in that. Like, people aren't necessarily putting in the words growing older or living younger into Apple Podcasts. They might search anti-aging. They might search mental health. They might search baby boomer generation. They may or fitness tips for baby boomers, things like that. So we want to infuse some of those words into what I would call a title extension. So your show would be Growing Older, Living Younger, then colon conversations about or tips.
Longevity.
Longevity, mental health, anti-aging secrets, things like that. Those are all the words that people are putting into Apple and Spotify.
Okay, so my tagline is live younger, longer. Again, I think that's the same criticism that you would have of the title. Now, I do add tags to the podcast. So that's where I use words like longevity, health span, super aging, that kind of thing. So where would I put these? Where would I put these keywords?
Yeah. So, okay. First off, with the tags.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, like, I know what you're talking about. Inside Libsyn, there's a place for tags. I haven't seen that make any impact as far as searchability. I'm not. Next time I talk to my Rob from Libsyn, I'm going to ask him specifically what that's for, because it doesn't seem like it has any SEO impact. So what I'm suggesting is on the title line of where you host. So like my show is called Podcasting Business School, but I've got a title extension on the actual title line, on the same line as Podcasting Business School, where it's tips for online entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants. And those are all keywords that my people are searching for. So
conversations about healthy longevity.
I think longevity, anti-aging, mental health. And then if you had like baby boomers or for, the generation that you primarily speak to, that would be a nice identifying term. So when I'm looking at a title of a show, I've got a 3-part checklist. The first check box that I like to check off is when I read the title, I want to know exactly what it's about. The second checkbox I want to check off is I want to know exactly who it's for. And then the third checkbox is I would like 2 to 3 keywords in the title that people are searching. So if we can check all 3 of those, then I feel like you're going to have nice search engine optimization, organic growth. So right now you're seeing your numbers stall out a little bit, and you're probably feeling like even if you promote it a lot, it's not really growing that much. And you're no matter if your guests share or not, you're not seeing consistent growth. And usually that means that our keywords aren't there. We're not hitting the right terms that people are searching on Apple and Spotify. And an example with my show, I just had some people reach out that have a new service about podcast search, and they can tell you like what you're ranking for certain words. So they showed me that I rank number 1 in Apple and Spotify for terms like podcasting tips or podcast about podcasting. So because I use those terms in my title, in my episode titles, and in my host description. So just I would definitely recommend looking at those 3 areas and looking at what keywords, like you said, longevity, is it anti-aging, is it mental health, fitness, nutrition, all those sorts of words that you mentioned earlier. Those are great keywords. And then all within the growing older, living younger, super agers concept as the kind of like the umbrella that all that's beneath. I think that's that would really bring the right people into your fold there. Does that make sense?
Okay, I've got 3 questions for you.
Yeah.
So first of all, is there a limit as to the length of the title with the extensions?
I mean, I'm sure there is, depending on where you host your show. There's usually a character limit, but they can be pretty lengthy. Like mine is pretty giant, but I call my show Podcasting Business School. I don't read the whole thing. Like I can't even remember what it is. It's whatever I put inside of my host. Like I don't ever mention the title extension anywhere. It's just for SEO purposes for my show. So it's like, welcome to Podcasting Business School. I don't say, welcome to Podcasting Business School, online, tips for online coaches, entrepreneurs, consultants, blah, 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 blah. So you could still call it Growing Older, Living Younger. You could maybe shift the tagline up. This show is for you if you are a baby boomer interested in longevity, becoming a super ager, mental health, fitness, increasing whatever. So yeah, I think that, it's like you're not changing your brand. We're just adding this little tagline at the end of it to extend the title just for SEO purposes only. Does that help?
Yes. The second question is, where are you looking for the downloads? So for example, I look at the episodes on my Libsyn account. Is that where I should be looking for it?
Yeah, for your analytics on your downloads, yes, that's the best place to look is on that kind of dashboard on Libsyn.
Okay, so then I have an interesting phenomenon. I was obviously checking this morning just sort of in preparation for this conversation, and I noticed that one episode had 357 downloads. The next closest one was something like 167. And I have no idea why that particular one peaked, but I suspect it's because about toxicity of plant foods was the topic, and particularly oxalates. And the person had written a book. So I have no explanation for why out of all my 139 episodes, that is one that was clearly over 300 downloads.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great topic to bring up that I don't talk about often enough on the show. I think that when we have that outlier episode, it's really important to dig in and ask the question, why did this happen? And kind of try to reverse engineer it. These can be a true gift where like something went extremely right here because it more than doubled your next highest episode. So I think we could have kind of a check down investigation list and go, okay, let's figure out why this happened. One definite possibility would be the topic and keywords of like what was in the title, where like people are searching for that online, and it just pulled a lot of people in, especially if that gets married with a current event, or if there's like a new Netflix documentary that everybody's talking about a plant-based diet, and then you have this episode about toxicity of plant-based foods, and now that, so it's kind of like a perfect storm media wise. Sometimes that will create that. Another reason would be the guest, like maybe they shared it out really well, or maybe they have a large audience and they posted about it, and they effectively helped you market it a little bit. Then you're going to see a little bit higher downloads there. But I would revisit them and ask them like, hey, this episode has gone really, really well. I'm trying to kind of reverse engineer the success so I can duplicate it. Let me know, did you share it out? If you didn't, no big deal. Like, I'm not going to, podcast shame you or anything, but if you did market it, let me know what you did so I can encourage other guests to do that. So I can kind of try to reproduce the results. Or just like, do you know of any hot button topic information that's coming out on this right now that we may have been able to piggyback on? So little things like that, I would definitely dive into it and look and see if we can reproduce, because like, let's say it was because there was something big in the media happening. You could reproduce that and go, okay, I'm going to search through Netflix, what's hot, just, when you see something pop up and you're like, oh, I can talk about that on my show. And you see this topic that's going crazy because of a TV show or a YouTube video or just a general public, event in the world, then marry it up with some content, and that could be an effective strategy to get more downloads. So how's that?
That's great. I'm going to contact them. And the second thing is with the SEO, I have been trying to get the keywords into the actual title of the episode.
Yeah.
So, for example, longevity or toxicity or sleep or something like that. So it's really not that easy to get it into the overall title of the podcast. I've been focusing on the individual episodes.
Yeah, I think the individual episodes, that's important as well. The three main areas we're going to look at for SEO, the most powerful is the title of the podcast by far.
Okay.
Like the name of the show. Then we have the description in your host in Libsyn, where you get to describe the show. All right. So where it talks a little bit about the show. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Where it describes each episode. So
no,
when
so this is the overall show. So
okay, so I can go and edit that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So it's the same place you would edit the title of the show, the art of the show, the categories you're listed in, and it says host description. So people overlook this. So what I would challenge you to do, you probably have a paragraph on there that's a little bit about the show. So look at that paragraph and go, did I put all the keywords I want in there? Are there any words I could swap out for a keyword in that initial paragraph that when you're talking about the show? Then below that paragraph, start a second paragraph, something along the lines of, this show is for you if you're searching for answers to questions such as, and then list 5 to 10 questions that are kind of like Googleable questions that your ideal listeners with keywords in those as well. So that will really help. And then the third area we always look at is the names of each individual episode. And my naming formula is I kind of just write down my general first thought, like here's what it's about. Then I go, okay, there's what it's about. Are there any keywords that I could put in there that would be more effective? And then I'll even look at it and go, is there a Google question that I could use? Like instead, like basically recreate the title as a Google question so that it has keywords and it's going to pull up easier as Google content. So that's what I look at when I'm doing those.
Yeah, so often my guests have just written a book, so they're guest experts, and I try to sort of incorporate some of the words from the book to sort of give an idea of a title, but that's probably helping them more than it's helping the podcast.
I mean, honestly, you could, if you include the name of their book in the title of the episode, like I know it could create a really long title of the episode, but if it's just like XYZ tips with Dr. So-and-so, author of name of the book, then I think you could really benefit from that. So as an example of how this type of connection works, so we are recording this episode, and in the title of the episode, since we're talking a lot about SEO, it'll probably be like SEO tips for podcasters. Then it'll say podcast audit of the growing older, living younger podcast. And what will happen is when people go on Apple and they search for your show, underneath that gives suggestions and it says people are also listening to, and it'll put my show in there because I listed the name of your show in this episode. I'll start pulling up for your content. My content will also be piggybacked to that, just because I put it in the name of one of my episodes. So if people are searching that book, the probability of your content on that episode pulling up as they're searching for the title of that book, I think that's a nice kind of free piggyback that you could take, because they're doing a lot of paid marketing for that book and all that, and you can kind of piggyback off of that. And for people that are interested in buying the book, all of a sudden they can listen to your episode and kind of get an appetizer to the book. So I think that would be an effective strategy.
Everything you're saying arouses more questions for me. So I have one last question about the title. So currently I would say doctor, and then that expert, and then talking about conversations on sleep or something like that. Do you think I should, whereas on the banner, I would say conversations about sleep with Dr. So-and-so. Do you think I should reverse that in the title of the actual episode?
Great question. So you have great questions. You must be a podcaster.
So I just love it. I love the podcast. And you know what? 2 years ago, I didn't even know that what I was listening to was podcasts.
Oh man, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Okay. So the strategy that I take with this is, when we look at Apple Podcasts or Spotify and you're kind of flipping through somebody's feed, you can't see the whole title, right? It's right. Like a snippet of the title, and it's different on each different podcast player app. Right. So my rule was, if I'm interviewing somebody and they're really famous and it's like a big name, then I put their name towards the beginning. If they don't have a huge audience, I put the topic first, because I want people to see what it's about. So like sleep tips with semi-famous influencer person, and then here's the book title. That's the formula I would use. If they're like big name person that you're like, everybody knows this name, if I put them on a billboard, everybody knows them in this niche, then put them first and then the topic, and then I would list their book, author of the blah 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 sleep book or whatever. And I think I like that strategy for you a lot. I think having the actual book title and the episode title, I think you could get some piggyback Google search power with that. And I would definitely try that out.
So I'm a little obsessive, and one of the things that I like is consistency. So flipping back and forth between, expert and title, or title and expert, would basically drive me crazy.
Well, if that's the case, then I would go topic. I would go topic, expert, and then title of book. That would be, if you did it every time, that's the way that I would personally do it.
And the last question with respect to that is the thumbnail for my Growing Older, Living Younger podcast is the one that I sort of put together, right at the beginning, and it does not. So maybe I need to change that now and put in conversations on longevity. Yeah. So
I highly recommend that. And
yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do that. Yeah.
And the key with that, Dr. Jillian, is you want to make it so that those searchable terms are very easy to read on that little image, because we have to realize that's on a phone and there are multiple images. So we have to make that stand out. So use really thick font. Make sure there's not, like, I'm a big fan of solid color backgrounds on podcast art instead of like a superimposed image or swirly things happening, because it makes it hard to read the text, and the text has to be the star of the show. If people can't read that, they'll probably go to somebody else's podcast, and that's a heartbreaker, because you had the right SEO terms and your show popped up and they just don't click on it because they couldn't read it. So I'm a big fan of the League Spartan font, because it's thick and kind of curvy and it's very easy to read. And feel free, if you're messing around with your podcast thumbnail and want to email me and go, hey, what do you think of this? I'd be glad to share some feedback on that. I do that all the time. So but make it easy to read. I would put those keywords, so conversations about X, Y, and Z, and make that in a different color on anything that's on the image, so they really stand out, really easy to read, and that will just draw the eyeballs of the ideal person. It's like a fishing lure, and all of a sudden, like, ooh, this is the one that I want to check out first and download some of these episodes. So that should be helpful.
Okay, I'm looking forward to getting back to my I guess Canva. I did the previous one on Adobe and making a new thumbnail. And I actually have my picture on it as well, which I can probably take off.
Well, okay. What I would suggest is put all the text on there, the name of your show, the subtitle, and what you'll find is there'll be an open pocket of space in there somewhere. And then put your image on there, put an image of a microphone or anything that makes sense for your brand. The mistake that most people make is they put a big picture of their face on there, and then they make all the text work around this giant picture of their face. I like to reverse that and go, let the text be the star of the show, because we need for people to be able to see that. It's very, very important. And then let your image or accessory art images be kind of the next tier of importance as far as what we put on that square image. All right. I think we got a lot done today. I think we're SEO, search engine optimized. And honestly, this is all, I love teaching this. I teach it a lot on these types of sessions, because this is stuff that it's the gift that keeps giving. And organic growth happens because of SEO. And if we don't have these steps in place, it can become quite a grind, because then it's dependent on going out boots on the ground marketing, and we have to market to get more people, when the searchability could just be happening and the right people could just be finding it. And it's so nice when you get all that dialed in. So I want that for you, Dr. Jillian. Let's shout out your show, your brand, your website. Where do people need to go if they want to come and check out what you've got going with your brand and with your show?
Yeah, the podcast is Growing Older, Living Younger. I've written a book which is called Growing Older, Living Younger, The Science of Aging Gracefully and the Art of Retiring Comfortably. And if you want a paperback copy, just go to jillianlockitch.com and you'll have a copy mailed to you, or you can find it on Kindle. I'm just launching an app called the Growing Older, Living Younger app. Still adding a lot of content, but you might want to check that out as well. And if you want to email me, it's just askdrjill@gmail.com. That is AskDrGill@gmail.com.
All right, Dr. Jillian, this was fun. You have great questions.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this session. So make sure everybody's listening, go and support Dr. Jillian. Check out what she's got going, especially if you are one of her ideal audience members. Plug in and support her show. If any of you want to come on and do a podcast audit, I'm now open and booking for the full next 90 days in 2024. So you can hop on the main website, podcastingbusiness.school, get signed up for a podcast audit episode. Just click the freebie button on the website and get signed up. And with that, Pod Pals, I'm going to send you out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. I will see you next time.